Jim, there's been a few rule changes this year. Can you summarize some of the more significant rule changes for this season?
Sure. Well, there will be a continued emphasis on targeting and high hits and those kinds of injuries to the players. It's become very significant around the country. So, we've been asked to keep a close eye on that. We've done that for the last couple of seasons. I think we've done a good job. And of course, in the Ivy and the Patriot League, generally the kids understand the danger, and we have very few problems in the league. As far as rules changes this year, there will be one that I think the fans will notice right away when it happens, and that is we'll have a 10-second runoff on the clock in the last minute of play. If there's a foul, the offended team can take the penalty and also a 10-second runoff on the clock against the team. They can also decline the 10 seconds and just take the penalty, but if they decline the penalty, they can't take the 10 seconds. Sounds easy. Second part of that is if the team that commits the foul has a timeout left, they can take the timeout to avoid the 10-second runoff. But it's a very similar situation. You'll see the officials come out and explain, just like we do on the Sunday games. Another one is a little bit of emphasis on the blocks below the waist. A lot of nuances this year as far as how that'll be called. And we've spent a lot of time working with the officials and the coaches to try and eliminate low blocks and injuries to the kids' knees. So we're still working hard on that one to get that injury down. And I guess probably the last big change that the fans will see this year, and again, not a big problem in the Patriot League, is if there's a taunting foul on a scoring play and the foul occurs on the field of play before the score, that would mean then if the penalty would be enforced on the field of play and the score would not count. An example would be 5-yard line, a safety's running a ball back for a touchdown. He scores, but on the 5-yard line, he turns around and taunts the team that's chasing him, and he goes in and scores. The foul would occur at the 5-yard line, and they would get the ball at the 20-yard line, 15 yards penalty, and the score would not count. So that's a big one. We don't expect to have any issues with that, though, hopefully, because there were very few last season.
Jim, you're the coordinator for 3 different leagues. Talk about the main responsibilities for your job.
Well, I guess there are a number of them. The biggest one is hiring, and then training, and then basically educating, and then grading, and then the official isn't performing where we think he needs to be, then of course we have to let them go. But probably the biggest thing I do is the training part. Our staff comes together for 3 long days in July at a local center where they do about almost a half a day out on the field, and the rest is classroom and videos, taking exams, learning their positions, and we have some guest speakers that come in, some from the NFL, some from other college groups to talk to them as well. And those sessions they start on Friday morning, and we go most of the day, Saturday from 6 in the morning until about 11 o'clock at night, and the better part of a half a day on Sunday. So that's where we do most of our training. And then we also have a program where the officials are studying film as groups and also taking tests every week during the off season. So officiating is no longer just a part-time avocation. I mean, the guys that we take in now, you've got to be committed. You've got to want to do it. And because you're going to be away for 10, 12 weekends a year, and that's not easy. And in most cases, you leave on Fridays, you don't get home until Sundays. So it's a big commitment that we expect. One of the sayings that I use all of our officials, if you think about bacon and eggs, the chicken makes the donation, but the pig makes the commitment. So that's what we expect our officials to do.
During the season, talk a little bit about what the officials do preparing for the game, and what your responsibilities are during those seasons.
Well, my responsibility during the season is to work with all of our coaches. The officials need to be in the city of the game they're going to work by 6 o'clock in the evening of the Friday night before the game. They get to eat dinner from 6 until 8, and this is all pretty much an agenda that we follow. From 8 o'clock till 11, they have a room that they go to for video review. They take an exam, take any criticism, and study films that I've sent for training. And then up early Saturday morning, they've got to be at the stadium 3 hours before. That's mostly time to spend with media, a little bit more on some rules, getting dressed, checking the field, and things like that. My day on Friday and Saturday is not unlike theirs, except I'll try to get to more than one game. So I try to make it a practice for the officials not to know where I am. And then on Friday night at 6 o'clock, sometimes I'll surprise them for dinner, and sometimes I'll surprise them at 8 o'clock and spend some time with them. And then usually on a Saturday, I'll get to 2, maybe 3 games, always on the sideline. I don't go to the press box. And at some point while I'm there, someone notices that the coordinator's there, and the message gets out to the crew that I'm there watching the game. And the reason I stay on the sidelines is because it gives me a good opportunity to see how they work together, how they communicate, how they handle the kids, how they handle the coaches. When you're close up, you can hear the dialogue, see the body English, and get a pretty good idea of how your officials work on the field. Plus, we have what we call a TA, technical assistant, or an observer assigned every game. They work in the press box, and then when the game is over, they spend some time with the crew to evaluate the game performance. And then during the week, they also evaluate a video, and the entire crew is graded on every call, and they get their grades back by Thursday, so they have them Friday to go over as well. So I guess the other one, dealing with the coaches, is usually good. The coaches will always have questions. In the old days, we used to do, this is one of the lessons that I learned, we used to do video via the VHS tapes, and they would not come to me until Thursday. And by the time I looked at them and got back to the coaches, it was Thursday night, Friday morning. And what I learned was, at that point in time, the coaches have moved on. They don't want to talk about last week's game. So it was never a big problem. Now what I've learned with our high technology and everything is the coaches have all the video in their hands by Monday. So now the conversation is entirely different because the wounds are much closer to the surface. So when I deal with coaches early in the week, we have to usually calm the situation down and work through it. And I've learned 3 things from this job. I have to be visible, I have to be available, and I always have to be honest.